Hey guys, I'm going to talk about a few quirks my characters have. Now, since I started playing D&D, I made at least 3 characters, and not all of them are weird. I mean, 2 of them are weird, but one of them's mostly normal. And in this video, I'm going to talk about all 3 of them. Now, in order to explain their quirks properly, I'm going to explain their backstory in a very simple way, so that you get a basic idea of if their quirk comes from their backstory, as well as quirks that came during gameplay. Now let's start with my first ever character, Kayla McCarthy. Now, her upbringing was basically just a daughter to a farmer in a small village. That was until something changed her life forever. One day, her village was attacked by an evil necromancer, planning on attacking small villages to raise an army of darkness, to take over even bigger villages, and so on and so forth. Kayla was almost a casualty of this. But, before a zombie can strike her down, a wizard showed up and saved her and the rest of the village. It was then that she decided that she would grow up to become a powerful wizard and protect those who could not protect themselves. So when she was finally of age, she left her village and seeked out to become the greatest wizard ever known. Anyway, you're probably wondering, hey, how does this backstory, go with her quirks? Well, let's just say she's afraid of undead now. And I don't mean running away or whatever. No. Nothing normal like that. I mean, how's the best way to describe this? You know that one meme where someone sees a spider in their house and the logical conclusion is to burn down the house? Yep. That was Kayla's reaction to undead. Whenever Kayla saw an undead, she would usually waste her, more powerful spells like a firebolt or something to try and kill them. And unfortunately, this character was a bit cursed when it came to rolling for damage. I don't know why, but for some strange reason, every time I rolled for a spell, it would always miss. Like, on occasion it would hit something, but most of the time it was a miss. I don't know why. I haven't had that situation happen with our characters before. It's just, for some reason, my first character was just really bad at aiming. It got so bad that her main spell basically became Magic Missile, just so she can hit something. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm done. Nope. You see, for some reason, I gave her the Find Familiar spell, even though we never really had a chance to use it because it took so long to set up. So, the Dungeon Master gave me an item, I think it was called the Bag of Many Things. I'll show a picture here if I find it. So, essentially how it works is you have a list of, I think, 10 animals. And you have to roll a dice to, decide which one you're using. And for some strange reason, the dice gods really wanted me to use badgers. Like, if it wasn't a normal badger, it was a giant badger. It got to the point where that basically became the meme of the character. Every time I sent out an animal from the bag for battle, it would usually be a badger. Don't know why, it just happened. Of course, it probably wasn't very good for the badgers, since there was one time where, well, I'll just explain the situation. Essentially, we were exploring this abandoned house or something. I don't remember, this was like a few years back. But there was a cellar and we couldn't see down it because it was too dark. So we decided to send in one of my animals, which at the time was a giant badger, to investigate. It went into the cellar and then never came out. So we decided to head in there, and as we were climbing down the rope to get deeper into the cellar, I noticed something grab onto my foot. You know what that was? It was a gelatinous cube. And guess what was inside it? The giant badger! That's right, the giant badger got stuck in the gelatinous cube. So after a while battling it, the badger was not having very good save rolls, so unfortunately it took too much damage and died in the gelatinous cube. Which is not permanent, mind you. I could just summon it again if I roll the right dice, but still, that became a very memorable moment. This last part is unrelated to D&D, kind of, but essentially what happened was, originally the character had a Scottish accent, but I couldn't do the accent because every time I did, I wouldn't go through on Discord. Like, for some reason, Discord kept mistaking me for background noise whenever I did the accent, and would just mute me. I don't know why. It's probably fixed by now. But still, that was a weird thing that happened. Anyway, moving on to the next character. So, my next character is Godzilla, and if you haven't seen my videos before, well, here's a quick little rundown of her backstory. Essentially, she was found as an egg by some druids that were very, let's just say they wanted people to go back to nature by force. And they were going to do so by turning Godzilla into their weapon. They trained her to be a very powerful barbarian, and they also made her dumb because they believed that making her smart would lessen her, rage abilities. Now, they were going to turn her into a kaiju, but that didn't go as planned. You see, they were going to test her on this small village that was just getting built. And in order to do the ritual, they would have to put her to sleep. And while doing the ritual, they were attacked by the townsfolk before they could finish it. And the townsfolk destroyed everything about the ritual except for the part that makes her fall asleep. So she was asleep for who knows how long, as the town became a thriving village. Unfortunately, she wouldn't be asleep for long, as the thing that was keeping her asleep was destroyed or something. I don't remember if I put any real reason for what happened, but anyway, as soon as she woke up, she went on a rampage, so the fairies of the nearby forest created Mothra to calm down Godzilla and convince Godzilla to protect the city and not destroy it. And eventually she became the protector of the city until she wanted a purpose in life, because her original one was to become this death machine for the druids. So she decided that she wants to become Queen of the Monsters. What exactly that means, I have no idea, because I didn't think that far ahead. Basically, she has a goal, but she doesn't understand the goal, because I didn't make her have an understanding for that goal, because I don't have an understanding for it. I don't exactly know how she becomes Queen of the Monsters, so yeah, she just does a bunch of random stuff and thinks it'll help her. So if you remember from earlier in the backstory, she is stupid, and that's intentional by the druids. Now, this has caused some things to happen. Well, actually, it's a big part of her character. For example, she takes things literal. Like, one time an NPC told her to get the door, and she ripped it from its hinges. Yep. That happened. But then she got another interesting quirk about her. we were fighting this homebrew monster called a water child, which is basically like a lava child, but completely made of water, and yes, it is completely see-through. So it took a while for us to find this creature, because it was literally drinking the water out of people's bodies. So eventually we, freeze it. But then we had to figure out how to kill it. So we tried boiling some of the frozen parts in these cauldrons in hope that we can boil the monster to death. But Godzilla had a different idea. Godzilla decided she wanted a monster snow cone because she had it in her tiny brain that if Godzilla eat monster, Godzilla become monster. And if Godzilla become monster, Godzilla become queen of the monsters. So, long story short, it did not work. We had to literally shoot lightning into Godzilla's mouth just to kill the thing, because it started eating her from the inside. So, yeah. Long story short, we don't let Godzilla eat living things anymore. So now she's resorted to eating dead things, like, I don't know, a troll that used to be a bandit because they used a magical item to transform into a troll. Or last session, where, funny story, we were fighting a bunch of bandits, and one of them was a dragonborn, and we managed to kill it. Now, the necromancer had to call the night early, so he wasn't able to resurrect it. So Godzilla asked if she could eat the dragonborn. Cannibalism! Yeah, and then the next session, well, technically this was the session before, but after that session, we came back, and the necromancer was saying how he was going to, resurrect the dragonborn, and we had to inform him that he is no longer existing anymore. So yeah, eating monsters basically became part of Godzilla's character. That and axes for some reason, I don't know why. I mean, she does have a homebrew weapon recently, and that was due to the fact that when the Dungeon Master was asking us for what items we might want in the future, I said I wanted an item that, could come back to me, because Godzilla is not very, skilled in range attacks. So now she has a boomer axe that essentially comes back to her every time she throws it. So yeah, now Godzilla is a threat to both land and air. And eventually see if we get to it, because she does have the Path of the Beast perk where she can breathe underwater. So yeah, she is a threat to every living thing on this planet. It's a good thing she's part of the good guys, because Lord knows what would happen if she was evil. Now, before I can continue, I need to mention something. Technically, Godzilla and the next character I'm going to talk about are technically part of the same world, not exactly the same campaign. You see, what we did was we have a smaller campaign for the character that's coming up next, where if not everyone could show up that week, we do like a little short thing for the other campaign. It works out pretty well, actually. So yeah, technically we have two characters for the current session we're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my last character, PT Conman. And this one might be a bit confusing, so hear me out on this. Essentially, when I was making him, I based him off of at least 3 people. P.T. Barnum, Stan Pines, and Theodore Roosevelt. Just hear me out, but here's what happened. Essentially, he was just going to be a mix between Stan Pines and P.T. Barnum. And his whole backstory is that he, conned so many people in his home village that they basically kicked him out. And he's just been living on the run ever since. And now he owns kind of a Mystery Shack deal, only in my backstory it's called like PT Conman's House of Freaks and Curiosities. So yeah, the original plan was to basically make him those two characters combined into one. One problem though, I don't know how to do a New Yorker accent. So I did what I knew and decided he should, talk like Theodore Roosevelt. Or at least my impression of him. It's not a very good impression, it's like, "Jolly day, good sir. It's such a bully day." Yeah, I know, it's terrible, but in game it's kind of funny hearing a guy trying to con people in a sophisticated voice. Before I go any further, I need to explain the world the DM created. So, you see, in this world there is a vast Fallout-like desert that used to be part of two countries that were neighboring each other. You see, what happened was there was like these technologically advanced countries, and I guess they didn't like each other because they basically nuked each other to the Stone Age. But they did it with like magic nukes, so there's wild magic everywhere in that area, which usually causes problems for everyone else, because sometimes those creatures leave that area. So in the campaign that Godzilla's in, basically every so often we encounter a creature from the Spell Waste. Meanwhile, PT Conman is trying to get new attractions for his House of Freaks and Curiosities. There are a few issues with that though. For example, he is a bard, and he doesn't have very useful spells for something, like a nuclear wasteland. I mean, his main attack is insulting creatures to death. So, yeah. Another thing is that, he constantly tries to get money, because remember, he's a greedy con man. But that's kind of hard to come by when there was a civilization that used credit cards and stuff. It's kind of hard to find, anything of value. There was also an issue I didn't think of where if he finds anything in the Spell Waste, how does he transport them back? Yeah. Let's just say he's not exactly very smart when it came to this plan. So he's basically there until something kills him viciously, which probably will happen because, as I said before, he is pretty defenseless in a world that is basically a Fallout desert. So yeah, that's basically all the characters I've made. Yep. There wasn't much to talk about with Conman because he doesn't have a whole lot of weird stuff about him besides, being this elderly man that decided to try and make money in a Fallout desert. But yeah. So, let me know what you think, and see you later.